everybody? We've got both coasts, the left coast and the right, joining you on Ignite today. Todd, what's up, dude?
Hey, good to see you and great to be here with you. So looking forward to a fun conversation.
Yeah, we're going to have fun. And Todd, tell them where you work and what do you do there?
I am a senior director of digital marketing at Keck Medicine of USC. So academic medical center attached to University of Southern California. And I'm responsible basically for all things digital. So the website, our paid and organic search, paid and organic social, digital advertising, digital display, etc. So quite a bit on my plate.
Big job. And I was reviewing, I wasn't as familiar with Keck because we're over here on the right coast. And then I became familiar looking at LinkedIn, and y'all are top ranked for a number of service lines and one of the top health systems in the country, and also academic, which means all of the smarty, innovative things happen. And it's not just theory. So I went onto the website and I started typing in because I had an AFib and I had an ablation. So I was seeing if your search bar would autocomplete with some of these things. And so I did minimally invasive and then did cardiac surgery, and I clicked on it. And then I started reading all about your maze surgery, which is more useful and has double the success rates. I didn't see that on your site. I went to another website and it actually is doubly as effective as what I had done. So Keck is actually very innovative. I wish I had known about it before I did what I did. But the point for people listening is not just to feel sorry for me. It is that when you do this and you go to that page, there is a video from a patient that walks you through the entire surgery and the recovery and what it was like and what her life is like now. So if you guys think that you can just throw up condition and treatment pages and have your content look just like everybody else, it doesn't work. Todd's going to explain why it doesn't work. And wow, kudos to you guys for having patient testimonials on treatment pages. I don't see it often. Todd, let's talk. What do you see as the top trend healthcare marketers need to be aware of this year? It's early 25. What are you looking at? What's keeping you up at night? What are you paying attention to?
Well, I think what's keeping me up at night is, I hate to start with a buzzword, but AI we have to talk about it. We can't ignore it. Specifically, getting organic or driving traffic to our website, the site you just mentioned, it's getting harder to do, certainly through organic because of AI. The terrifying, if you will, AI overview answers all the questions for you. So that's something I think about just about every day, is just understanding how do we reach people and at what stage are we going to be talking to them? Have they already gotten the definitions out of the way because they read an AI overview and then they're looking for something else? And how do we make sure that we're answering those questions at the right stage? That to me is a significant part of what we're doing, at least from the website standpoint and, from the organic more than anything outside of the business.
Yeah. Let's talk more about it because we have a live stream coming up in a week. But it will have already happened by the time this launches, but we'll talk about that and we'll get to media in a moment. I want to stick on the AI overview type stuff. I was up at 1 a.m. last night seeing where AI overviews are coming, and it seems to be a lot of upper funnel symptoms, stuff like that. Are you seeing that? Are you starting to see that it's grabbing lower funnel, higher intent? Have you actually modified anything you do with the content, your website, video, anything on the website? Have you modified anything yet?
So great question. I'll start with the first part of your question there, which is, is it mostly upper funnel? And from what I've seen, yes. The stats I've seen show 85% of healthcare searches are shown in AI overview.
Yes.
Google hasn't rolled it out to everything for everyone, but healthcare is the highest of all the industries. Healthcare is number one. So that's reason to be concerned, or at least give pause. The existence of the Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, WebMD is another reason to have, a little bit of concern, because those upper funnel, what is sarcoma type of questions, they have a lock on that in many respects. And, we're half of the different health systems across the country are licensing their content from one of them anyway. And at least from a healthcare library standpoint. So most of it is upper funnel. So that's certainly opportunity for us. Now, have we changed anything on the site? The biggest thing that we've changed is our content strategy. So can we differentiate ourselves based on our definition of sarcoma versus Mayo Clinic versus any other health system? I hope not. Honestly, I would hope that we're at a place where the definition of sarcoma is the same for everybody, or darn near the same. So we can't differentiate based on the definition content. So maybe that's okay that the overview is just going to take that for us. So in terms of changing the content strategy, now our thought is, let's assume they've got those definitions. Does that mean we don't need to provide them? No, we still need to have that. It's somewhat table stakes, if you will. But rather than working to build that out and increase our content library around definition content and that sort of thing. We're not focused on that. We're focused instead on the areas that differentiate us from our competitors. And that would be at least potentially those treatments that you mentioned, those treatment pages. That's where our experts, our expertise, that's where we come in. Defining clinical terms, that's everybody can do that, including an AI, but actually performing the critical care, the clinical operations, what have you, that's where we differentiate. And so our focus in terms of content strategy is let's build out more of that. Let's beef up those treatment pages to highlight the differences, what makes us special, whether it's the people that are providing your care, which is a huge part of it, or if it's the care that we provide, specifically certain treatments that we offer. You mentioned certain procedures that we do that might differentiate ourselves. That's a big part of what we've done as well.
Yeah. So what Todd is saying, guys, and this is really important. I've been harping about it on LinkedIn, is we can't rank for everything anymore. That's what AI has kind of taken. It's the upper funnel. And we used to get that upper funnel traffic and hope it would convert down. We can't rank for everything. There's some really well-established players, yada, yada, yada. Focus on your unique selling proposition. What are you the best in the world at? What do you do better? And then really hone in on that content and make those pages the best that you can. Patient, provider testimonials, MD input. So where your content is like almost editorial, like guys, focus on that and make it the best. Not only will it help it rank in Google, I think is pretty smart. They will see the page is more useful. The dwell rate is longer, all that kind of stuff. So you will rank better. But more importantly, when someone like me finds your website through whatever means, the patient journey is elaborate now, through whatever means, and they end up on that treatment page, they choose you because it resonates, it's personable, and there's actually a patient testimonial. So Todd is spot on. Focus on what makes you best and go there and stop worrying about the upper funnel traffic it was taken. That was very low intent anyways. Yeah. All right. SEO, AI, that's what we're paying attention to. That's what Todd is paying attention to. I love it. You are in charge of all digital media. That is all service lines. So all service lines to each
brand and service.
Everybody. I mean, that's an incredible. I want that job after this job. Hopefully they fire me from that job.
Careful what you wish for. Yeah.
It is cool to use our marketing powers for good, and you can sleep while doing it. And you used to work at an agency, so you know the value of being in healthcare now. Yep. Very fun. All right. All digital media rolls up to you. So it's getting complex. Patient journey. What do you focus on with your media this year?
So that's a great question. So I think the most important thing for us when we think about media is the audience and understanding the audience, because, the best strategy in the world fails if it's not, reaching the audience the way that they want to be reached. So one of the things that people around me are sick of hearing me talk about is what I call the platinum rule. Right. We are all raised on the golden rule, do unto others. Treat people the way you want to be treated. And so the shift I'm trying to make is the platinum rule. So treat people the way they want to be treated, not the way you want to be treated. How I want to be treated has nothing to do with how you want to be treated. And so let's focus on them. So how that translates into media is understanding where our patients are and recognizing that it has to be different for every service line. And so for some service lines, let's just say orthopedics or ENT, those are much more transactional. We have walk-in clinics. You can just go in and make an appointment, or go in without an appointment and just show up and say, I have a stuffy nose or my ankle hurts or what have you. So there's a level of conversation that we have with them that's much more about, here's where you can go, and talking about ease of transaction, that sort of thing. When you elevate to the more complicated procedures, the bigger, longer process things, that's where, because we know they're going to need a referral, then, we have a different conversation with that type of audience. And then the other thing I would mention is it ties directly to media, is recognizing that many of the patients we have skew older, which makes sense. Younger people, they're invincible. They don't necessarily need healthcare. And if they do, it likely is because of a stuffy nose or a twisted ankle and, whatever. So if our patients skew older, who's responsible for their care? Are we speaking to them? Are they the ones making their own appointments? Or might there be an opportunity to reach an audience that's making these plans for their parents? And so we're trying to think about things like that. Like, who is the audience? Who's the patient? And then who is the audience that we're speaking to that's responsible for that patient? Is it the patient themselves? Might it be a caregiver who's younger? We know we hear so much about the sandwich generation, people caring for their kids and their parents. There are a lot of them out there. And so that's another sort of avenue that we're approaching. But all of it comes back to understanding the audience understanding how they respond, what channels they might respond to, and speaking to them, meeting them, not just where they are, but how they're willing to be and how they might be receptive to the message.
I love it. The platinum rule, guys, treat patients how they want to be treated. I had not heard that. Todd coined it, put a trademark in it when we put it as the headline of this conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. That is so important to put them in your shoes. With the sandwich generation, it is getting tougher. And every year that goes by, we're responsible for both sides. It's exhausting. And think about it. What he mentioned was something that's low acuity, urgent care, whatever, PCP, that's mostly about access and making sure appointments are available all the time or walk-ins available, whatever it is. And then the higher acuity stuff, do we need to go through a provider or referral? Do we need to educate more with patient testimonials? So put your feet in the seat of your patients and then create content based on that. When you think about your media, you guys are huge. You're spending a ton, I'm sure, on paid social and PPC and all that fun stuff. And we don't have to give secret sauce, but are you shifting more into one channel? How are you measuring the whole thing and the effect on all of them? I just did an attribution post today on LinkedIn, and it has me even questioning how a bigger group would do it like you guys.
Yeah, it's a good question. So one of the things you have to keep in mind for us, it's maybe not unique to us, but we like to think it's a unique challenge that we face. And that is, everyone's heard of USC, but you yourself hadn't necessarily heard of Keck Medicine of USC. So we don't have a problem with recognition of the university that we're affiliated with and we're so much a part of. But, we're number 3 in our market. And numbers 1 and 2 happen to be in the top 5 in the nation with UCLA and Cedars-Sinai. So it's pretty rare that USC, the University of Southern California, would find themselves not just an underdog, but, distant third in a market as small as LA. It's as big as LA, but as small as, in healthcare in LA, when you think about it. So that presents many, many challenges. So in terms of, where we're trying to reach people, I think that's been one of the things that we think about. So you combine what we just talked about with that platinum rule and understanding where they happen to be, what channels are they using, what channels might they be more receptive to. It goes back to thinking of it as absolutely service line dependent. There are some service lines that are it's tied to a specific location. We're in Orange County here, for example, but we only offer specific services in Orange County. Okay, those specific services in Orange County, maybe people are more receptive to out of home because they, when they're in the mall, they're on the streets of Newport Beach, they recognize people that they see on the billboard, and we have great competition down there as well. So that might be an out of home play. In other parts in the middle of, in LA proper, in the city of LA, maybe we would include some out of home, but maybe we have to think of it more broadly because we've got, 10 million people in our area, and they're using every single channel from local media, local television and radio to TikTok. And so we're trying to speak again, service line by service line, look at each one individually, understand the audience for that service line and say, okay, that audience is receptive to, they're a little bit younger, maybe they're younger, they'll be open to TikTok. This other audience, they're not as young, they're going to be more likely to consume print and out of home, et cetera. So it really, without giving away any secret sauce, I would just say we have to be in all the channels but not for every service line. We have to be very service line specific and focus in that audience and where they are receptive to receiving our message.
Back to the platinum rule, everybody. Back to the platinum rule. That is totally service line and market specific. You're in Newport Beach. Yeah, everybody's outside all the time. That's the point, right? And so, you're going to have a totally different play. Real quick, 2-second answer. How do you measure effectiveness for a service line? Because you've got so many things. You got out of home. You got all of these traditional channels. You even mentioned print. Print's still alive, everybody. I like print. You can touch it. Yeah, print works. Everything works if you do it right. What's your number one KPI for a service line?
Yeah, for a service line, we ultimately, I think we tied that back to things like cost per lead. To me, that's a pretty powerful one. Obviously, when we're running out of home, we can't really attach out of home to some cost per lead. So anything we do that would be deemed as somewhat upper funnel, we pair that with a lower funnel, like a search, or that sort of thing, or some level of programmatic advertising or in your social. So nothing that we do that's upper funnel isn't paired with something that's lower funnel. So cost per lead is an incredibly important one for service lines for us. And then, just looking at that, the trends over time for cost per lead. The hard part with cost per lead, again, is do we include the cost of that billboard or that sign at the mall, et cetera? And to do it right, we have to.
You have to.
We can't compute ROAS without the entire S. The entire ad spend has to be incorporated into that. And so that's what we look at. So again, service line by service line. It's not a one size fits all approach. So we have attribution modeling on a relatively small scale, nothing like what, when I was on your side of the business, the agency side, where we had far more tools, I would say, at our disposal for attribution modeling. We have a little bit of that, and we're getting smarter, I would say, about that. It just takes some time and budget, frankly, that is harder to come by. But otherwise, cost per lead, driving down those costs per lead, and just understanding, again, that every one of them is a unique business. Every service line is a unique business.
You can't have ROAS without the S. You are giving me so many taglines, Todd. I love it. Give me all my LinkedIn posts for the next 6 months. It's great. And it all has to be bundled together. And that's what leadership is going to ask, right? If you just come and you say, we spent this on search, CPL is this. They're going to say, yeah, but didn't you have this whole out of home and billboard and print thing going on? Come on, schmuck. Give me the whole thing. I know I spent this much money. How much is the whole thing? And guys, I think it's also okay to say we did that last month. You won't see that effect for the 2 months. So I'm giving you the PPC CPO right now. Next month, yes, I'll roll it all in. I think it's fair to say it would take a month or so to start having traction. I only got you 1 more minute, so I only have one more question for you, Todd. What is a hot take, controversial opinion? What is something in healthcare marketing should be paid more attention to that it's just not?
Oh boy, something we should be paying attention to that we're not. I would argue that it's those channels that you mentioned print. I think that's one that people have put to bed a while ago because we all want to be digital marketers. Believe me, I want to be a digital marketer, and that's everything to me. But I would say don't sleep on print, particularly in a local market. The other I would say is that with the advancement of digital out of home, don't sleep on out of home. I think that the technology that's come out with out of home, LA is a car market. So out of home is real here. I would love to tell you that all forms of digital out of home, things like Uber, ads within an Uber are big here. The hard part is everybody owns their own car here. So Uber's not quite as effective. But yeah, I would just say don't sleep on, as much as I love the TikToks and Instagram and everything else, we're doing a lot there. I would say don't sleep on those channels that feel a little bit more traditional, between out of home and maybe even some print and direct mail, for that matter.
Yeah. I love it, guys. And it goes to a lot of you guys are running large multi-site provider groups, not just a hospital or health system in one location. And so you have to know the markets. If there's one thing I've taken away from this is know your market really well. Todd just said everyone has a car. The Uber stuff's not going to work. I love it. And you have something that you believe in, Todd, that really matters of trying to get shared influencers. We think of these, influencers out there, Instagram and whatever, but you think of influencers differently. Can you give me your take on that?
Well, to me, it's all about building trust. So influencers can be any age. They don't have to be, masters of selfies and that sort of thing. They can be any age. And the idea of influencers is to build trust. That is the most important thing. So, in other types of marketing that are not healthcare, maybe an influencer can be about, well, if that person did it, I want to do it. That's not the way we think about influencer now. It's more, again, build trust. People have to trust you. It's literally they're trusting us with their lives in many cases. So that's when we think about influence. Again, you mentioned it at the start. Patients can be great influencers, not because they're out there saying we're great, but more just saying that they trust us. So hearing that someone trusts us and is willing to express that level of trust goes such a long way. And that's about the best influence that we could ever hope for.
There are many ways to acquire a patient, guys. There are many ways to acquire a patient. And the best way to do that is through building trust in local community. And that can come right out of your own organization. I absolutely love that. Influencers, not just for super selfies. My wife is a super selfier. BT dubs. Todd, this was awesome. I loved talking to someone that is in charge and doing digital marketing. This makes me want to do so much more of it. It was awesome, man. You shared some things I hadn't heard before. I always learn from these, but I honestly learned a lot from you. This is awesome.
Great.
Hope the rest of your day goes on the left coast and you have more of it left than I do. It's already 2. It's like 5 a.m. for you guys over there. Back in time. Todd, thank you for joining us on Ignite, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Fun chat.